What if the universe isn't just this vast, empty machine? What if it's alive? Something that actually thinks and feels. Today, we're going to unlock that very idea, and it might just change how you see everything. So let's just jump right in with a huge question. Mainstream science will tell you that you're basically a super complex biological machine, right? Your thoughts, your feelings, that sense of you in there, it's all just the whirring of the hardware in your skull. But does that really feel right to you? Does that capture what it's like to be alive?
And that brings us right to this classic problem, the one they call the ghost in the machine. It's this massive gap between what science says we are and what we actually experience ourselves to be, from the inside.
See, on one side, you've got scientific materialism, which basically says your consciousness is just this powerless ghost that's kind of along for the ride in your body. But that just doesn't line up with how it feels to be you, does it? You don't feel like a passive observer watching a machine. You feel like a self, an I, that is actively making choices every single moment.
So maybe we need a new definition, one that's based on that direct experience. Let's think of a personality not as some thing the brain produces, but as an active process. It's a constant stream of conscious decisions. It feels the world, it has purpose, and, this is the big one, it actually causes things to happen. I decide to move my hand, and look, it moves. That feels pretty real.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This whole materialist model, which has been the king of the castle for centuries, is starting to show some pretty serious cracks. There's a growing pile of evidence and phenomena that it can't really explain. This isn't the first time science has run into this kind of problem. Just think about Galileo. The smartest people of his day literally refused to look through his telescope. Why? Because the idea that Jupiter had moons was just too ridiculous. It didn't fit their model of how the world was supposed to work. Sound familiar?
And what are we refusing to look at today? Well, there are tons of well-documented reports that are really tough to explain if the world is just physical stuff. Things like psychokinesis, where mind seems to directly affect matter, or telepathy, mind-to-mind communication. And maybe the most powerful example, these incredibly vivid near-death experiences that people report, even when their brains have totally flatlined.
And get this, we're not talking about a handful of weird cases. An incredible 10 to 20% of patients who have a near-death event report having one of these profound experiences. That is a huge amount of data that the standard model just doesn't have a good answer for.
Okay, so if the old model isn't the whole story, then what is? We clearly need a different way of looking at reality. One that can actually make sense of all the evidence, not just the convenient bits. And that brings us to a whole new vision, a universe that actually feels. This leads us to a massive, dramatic question. If reality isn't fundamentally made of dead stuff, atoms, energy, the usual suspects, then what in the world is it made of? What's the ultimate ingredient? Well, the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead had a pretty interesting idea. He said that modern science made a huge mistake. He called it the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. Basically, we created this abstract model, physics, which is amazing for describing how stuff behaves. But then, we started to think the model was reality. It's like confusing the map for the actual living, breathing territory.
So what is the territory? What is reality really made of? This new model says the true atom of reality isn't a tiny particle of dead matter. It's what's called an actual occasion, a momentary drop of experience. Reality isn't made of things, it's made of moments of feeling, of perceiving, of becoming.
And the implication of that is just mind-blowing. If reality is made of these little drops of experience, then sentience, the ability to feel, isn't some rare, bizarre accident that only happened in complex brains like ours. It's a fundamental property of existence itself. Sentience goes all the way down.
So, this is the big test, right? Does this new model actually work? Can the universe that's made of experience explain all that weird stuff that a universe made of dead matter just can't?
Well, this model suggests that reality isn't just one physical thing. Think of it more like a spectrum of worlds. You've got the physical world we all know. But beyond that, there's a vital world, a world of life and emotion, and even a mental world of pure meaning and purpose. Suddenly, things like dreams or near-death experiences don't seem like glitches. They might just be glimpses into these other real domains.
And in a universe made of experience, purpose is real again. The old idea of a final cause, not just what happens, but the reason why it happens, is back on the table. In this view, every single moment of existence is guided by an aim, a drive, towards some kind of purpose or value.
Okay, let's just put these two worldviews side by side. Look at the difference. In the materialist model, consciousness is an accident, purpose is an illusion, NDEs are hallucinations, and psychokinesis is impossible. But in this new model called process metaphysics, consciousness is fundamental, purpose is a real cause, and those weird phenomena, well, they start to make a whole lot more sense. And just like that, with one big shift in perspective, all of those things that seemed absolutely impossible, they become intelligible. We might not have all the answers, but they now fit into a logical picture of the universe.
So let's bring all of this home. What does this actually mean for you, for me, for us? Because if any of this is pointing in the right direction, it means you are not just some passive spectator in a cold, meaningless universe.
Here's the #1 takeaway. Your consciousness, your inner life, that feeling of being you, it's not a weird fluke. It is a direct expression of the fundamental fabric of reality itself. You are literally made of the same stuff the universe is.
I absolutely love this quote from the source material. It just reframes everything. You're not a little separate thing living in the universe. You are the universe itself, experiencing life as an individual. And through all of our choices, we are all actively co-creating what happens next.
So what's the bottom line here? It's that if purpose is a real force in the universe, then your purpose matters. Your choices, your intentions, what you aim for, those aren't just thoughts in your head. They are real, actual forces that help to shape the future of the cosmos. You're a player, not a pawn.
And so that's the question I want to leave you with. If we're not just biological robots in a dead universe, but we are conscious beings in a cosmos that is literally alive with purpose, what is your role in it? What purpose are you here to bring to life?